Namo Sakyamuni Buddha. Hello everyone, Guang today here. And today I'll be answering a question that I get a lot on Tumblr, my website. And the question is, do Buddhists pray? Or how do Buddhists pray? And the answer is yes, Buddhists do pray. And as we all know, almost every major religion has prayer in some way, shape, or form. But in Buddhism, it's a little different. Since Buddhism is not theistic and it's not a God-centered religion, it's a mind-centered. And so prayer in Buddhism isn't praying to anything or anyone. It's more or less directed to ourselves. Of course, some Buddhist schools and traditions, do prayer directly to a Buddha or Bodhisattva, but it's not really asking for anything. Any prayer in any religion shouldn't be for personal gain. It shouldn't be asking for something or wanting something. It should be an aspiration for some sort of characteristic or cultivating some sort of characteristic. So prayer in Buddhism is, like I said, it should be direct to ourselves. The Buddha taught us that no one can liberate ourselves but ourselves, and only we can create the causes and effects towards our alignment. So when we pray in Buddhism, it's not praying, if we're praying to Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, we're not praying, oh, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, please help me get this job. Please, make me well, or make me win this lottery, or whatever it may be. And that's just not how it works. Even if you're praying to God or Jesus, or whoever you're praying to, you shouldn't be asking for money or for health or wealth or fame or whatever it may be, because that's just not how prayer is supposed to be. So, and Avalokiteshvara, if you're praying to Avalokiteshvara, he's not going to turn around and be like, oh sure, I'll help you get rich, I'll help you feel better, I'll help you get laid. It's not going to work that way. So when we're praying, for example, to Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, we're praying to cultivate that characteristic of compassion, of that love. And so we're asking for guidance, or we're asking ourselves for a clearer mind, a more understanding mind, toward being able to be more compassionate, to be more loving, to be open-minded towards compassion for ourselves and for other people. And it's the same thing whenever we're praying to a Buddha or Bodhisattva. If we're praying to Manjushri Bodhisattva, we're praying for great wisdom, for the path, the way, the dedication to be able to help ourselves practice and find enlightenment. If we're praying to Kshitigarbha Bodhisattva, Kshitigarbha is the Bodhisattva who helps beings in hell become enlightened. And so when we pray to Kshitigarbha, we're praying that we want to cultivate that characteristic of being able to help people who are suffering, who are battling their own demons and their own hell, and we want to help them liberate themselves from that. And so Buddhist prayer is not really prayer. It's more of an aspiration towards ourselves, for ourselves, because like I said, we're not asking for anything, or we shouldn't be asking for anything, and we're not really bowing down and praying per se to anything or anyone. It should be a reminder to ourselves, hey, if you are struggling with compassion, or you're struggling to be open-minded, or to feel love for everyone, then prayer should be more of a meditation practice. It should be you sitting down and kind of really analyzing the situation. You're analyzing what you're kind of wanting. So if you're struggling with compassion, for example, then you want to kind of remind yourself, this is where you sit down and you pray to yourself basically and say, I really need to be more compassionate. How can I be more compassionate? Why am I not compassionate towards certain people, or more compassionate toward other people? And in Buddhism, when we practice Buddhism, we practice something called the Four Immeasurables, which are compassion, loving kindness, appreciative joy, and equanimity. And this is something that is really in the core of Buddhist practice. It is so important because as Buddhists, we hear and we see compassion all the time. Compassion is really this giant keyword in Buddhist practice, or in any Buddhist book you read. And it's true, because without compassion, it kind of clouds our mind, it clouds our judgment, it clouds our opinions, and without that clear compassion across the board for every single person and every single being, then it makes it even more harder for us to be compassionate, to be loving, to be joyful for other people, and to be to have an equanimity, a mind of equanimity. And so the Four Immeasurables specifically tells us that we need to practice compassion, that we need to be compassionate towards all people, all beings. We need to love people, not love people, but treat people with love and kindness as we would our own parents, our own friends, our own siblings. And we practice appreciative joy by, being happy for other people. Sometimes, a lot of people get angry when, for example, when they're out of a job and they're really wanting this promotion, but someone else got it. And so instead of feeling angry and upset about it, we should really feel appreciative for that person for getting that job. We're not saying that they are better than us. We're not saying that we deserve more than they did, but we are practicing joyfulness for them. We want to be joyful for them, because if we are completely angry with them and we're completely, just ignorant about the whole situation, just mad about it, then we're really gonna suffer for ourselves. So instead, we want to feel joyful for them. We want to thank them, congratulate them. And the last, we want to see the world with equanimity. Equanimity means, for me personally, it means viewing everyone equally. And so in Buddhism, as we progress and advance, we learn about emptiness and the reality of all phenomena. And so this is where kind of equanimity is the foundation for that. Practicing equanimity means viewing and seeing everybody equal. And this could be difficult for a lot of people, especially depending on where you've grown up, where you live, who you are, what you are. It's really seeing people that are equal to us, I guess, or equal to everyone. So it's not seeing a man and a woman, or white or black, or gay or straight. It's seeing everyone equally as people, as a person. They're not rich, they're not poor, they're not tall, they're not fat, they're not thin, they're not anything. They are just people. And as we practice that really helps us become more compassionate. It helps us become more loving, kind, more loving, and it helps us become more appreciative for people once we see everyone on this kind of equal base, on this equal line of everyone else. So I kind of went off topic a little bit, but that's okay. So back to prayer. So once we kind of understand those foundations of the Four Immeasurables, we really, it goes back to prayer, where that is kind of, that is it. All Buddhist practice is essentially a big giant prayer, because we are aspiring to be, more open-minded. We're aspiring to be more compassionate. We're aspiring to want to know the knowledge and wisdom of Buddhism and to enlighten ourselves. And so we just practice. We don't ask for anything. Like I said earlier, the Buddha told us that he cannot control our alignment. No one else can control our alignment. All the causes and conditions are in our hands, and we have to create those causes and conditions if we want to become enlightened. And so we have to create the right causes for the right conditions, for the right conditions happen. So if we don't have the essential causes, if we don't practice compassion or loving kindness, appreciative joy and equanimity and everything else that the Buddha taught us, if we don't practice that, we're not creating any causes to create the correct effects. We're not creating anything where the time is right for those seeds in our consciousness to kind of sprout out and help us liberate ourselves. So that's basically the gist of Buddhist prayer. We can pray. We all pray as Buddhists. We all pray, if we go to the temple or in our home, right here, we pray, like I said, at the beginning of the video, I say Namo Sakyamuni Buddha. That's essentially a prayer, sort of. But, all prayer is just a reminder. It's this sticky note that we always keep in our heads that we have to remind ourselves. Whenever we pray and say Namo Sakyamuni Buddha, we are saying that because, one, of course, out of respect and paying homage to the Buddha, but also it reminds us to, to work diligently, to put effort and hard work into our practice so we can become a Buddha. And if we don't put in that hard work, if we don't put in that, that effort and that diligence, and we're just kind of lazing around, then nothing's gonna happen. We're not creating any sort of cause or effect for our liberation. And prayer is the same thing. It's not blind faith. We can't, just sit around and say, oh, please God, I'm struggling finding a new job. Can you please help me find a new job? No one's going to help you find a new job. You have to put in the work. You have to get out there and make your resume look nice and search for jobs and interview and do your best and beat every other candidate out of the water. And then you get a job. You can't just hope for or wish for it. That's just silly. It's ridiculous. And so that is how we pray. It's not prayer, but it's kind of prayer, whatever you want to call it. Whatever society wants to call it, it's whatever. It's not something we see a lot in Buddhism, I guess. I don't know really how to explain it. There's no structure or a huge explanation of what Buddhist prayer is or how Buddhist prayer works. It's just, just like I said, I keep stressing it. It's a reminder. It's a self-reminder. It is the aspiration to want to cultivate certain characteristics, whether it's compassion or love or an open mind or whatever it may be. So we use that as a tool to help us develop in our practice. So that is Buddhist prayer. Hopefully I did some justice and kind of explained it as much as I can in a completely simple way. If you have any questions or feedback or whatever it may be, just let me know in the comments or send me an email on my website or on Tumblr. I'll always mostly reply if it's appropriate. Thank you. Smile and be well. In this video, I'm going to be finishing off the last 4 of the Eightfold Path. In the last video, I covered the first 4, right view, intention, speech, and action. And today I'll be finishing